We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. And if you want to support the channel through a donation, a super chat donation, hit the $, put in a comment, and we'll get your comment as soon as possible. Welcome. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of the Great Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend. With your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. Welcome in, everybody. This is how we do it here, Peek Around the Corner. When we suffer, when I suffer, not you. Not you. When I suffer a loss, when we get something wrong here at Peek Around the Corner, we start the show with it. We don't put it at the end. We don't try to hide it in the middle. We come out on top and we talk about it before we get to our stack show today. For early peak membership, the people who are part of the membership of College Football's Early Peak, members only, $5.99 a month, just one level. If you're interested, hit the join button. However, the little bit of nugget of information we dropped. I believe we dropped it on Sunday. It was just a little off. We'll get to that in a second. College football's early peak. If you are interested in becoming an early peak member, hit the join button. However, on the Sunday show, I believe it was the Sunday episode, from members only, we dropped a little bit of nugget of information. We were told that it was all lined up. It was all lined up. The video was booked in. Everything was going to happen. It was all lined up. Riley Leonard was going to transfer to Notre Dame, and it was going to become official on Monday. It didn't happen. It happened today, Tuesday. And right away on Monday morning, we were told some information on Saturday. It came out to be true that it was all canned already. Riley Leonard, they used the video for Riley Leonard's announcement. They used when he visited Notre Dame last Wednesday, Thursday. Early Monday morning, it came out that Riley Leonard signed a Gillette deal, right? An NIL national deal with Gillette, the razor company. And right away, I was like, they're not going to step on that announcement with an announcement that Riley Leonard's going to Notre Dame on Monday. So it was announced today. Riley Leonard, Duke quarterback Riley Leonard has announced he is transferring to Notre Dame. This is a big deal. Big deal. You guys know how much I love Riley Leonard. I love watching him as the Duke's quarterback. Hopefully Duke doesn't tail off too much. We'll talk about Duke later in the offseason, but this is a huge get for Marcus Freeman and Riley Leonard. Hopefully he can ignite that offense. They're getting some new wide receivers in the transfer portal. The guy from Florida International and some others. Hopefully he can reignite that Notre Dame offense that has been missing over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. That's the first big story. And we got it wrong. So we're taking the L. We knew it was happening, but we thought the announcement was happening Monday. It happened today. And we at Peek Around the Corner apologize to the PATC community. We take the L this morning. There's a whole bunch of other things we got to get to. Let's get to all the portal news first. And then I see Expedition Greg. There's a lot of smoke and fire between Florida State and the Big Ten. That is from early peak member Expedition Greg. Again, there's a lot of stuff out there, and once again, I'm going to have to be the guy that puts on the brakes. I'm going to have to put on the brakes once again. We'll get to that here in a little bit. First of all, Kyle Monangai is coming back to Rutgers. Rutgers tailback Kyle Monangai tells ESPN he plans to return for 2024, a fifth season at Rutgers. Monangai led the Big Ten in rushing yards with 1,099 yards as he averaged 5.17 yards per carry He scored 7 touchdowns. And I got to say, my gun guy did a lot of that by breaking the initial tackle close to the line of scrimmage. I love watching this dude play. I love watching this dude play. I am glad for Shiano and for Kirk Shiraka and for William Saddle, whoever's going to be the starting quarterback at Rutgers next year. This guy's coming back. This guy is the most valuable player for Rutgers, and he is coming back. Couple other news items. Cameron Ward. Washington State transfer Cameron Ward is expected to take an official on Miami today. Today, Tuesday. Ward is the number 5 overall player in 247 Sports Portal. A lot of people have him 1, 2, or 3 in the quarterback ratings in the portal. But then Will Howard. Miami is hosting Kansas State quarterback transfer Will Howard for a visit today. Howard is ranked as the number 15th overall player in the 247 Sports Portal. So you have Cameron Ward and Will Howard both visiting Miami, and of course only one is going to end up at Miami, if either one, right? It's going to be 1 or 0. It isn't going to be both. And I got a feeling that Miami's number would rather have Cameron Ward, but Will Howard's probably a close second. So, the dominoes are starting to fall just a little bit with the quarterback position in the portal, right? We had Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon. Riley Leonard going to Notre Dame. Who's going to end up at Miami? Is the Ohio State Buckeyes going to pick up a quarterback in the portal? Maybe they won't. Maybe Devin Brown will be quarterback number 1 in the portal. This is A.J. Swan, a very successful quarterback for Vanderbilt in the SEC. He goes in the transfer portal after 2 years, started at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt quarterback transfer A.J. Swan is visiting South Carolina today. So, there's another one. There is another one. And then, DJ Uiagalelei. From Pete Thamel, ESPN source, DJ Uiagalelei is taking an official visit to Florida State this weekend. The former Oregon State and Clemson quarterback is one of the top remaining quarterback targets in the NCAA transfer portal. So we've got a lot of action going on. A lot of action going on in the quarterback transfer portal situation. And a couple other stories I want to hit to before we get to Nebraska, before we get to North Carolina, before we get to Florida State, before we get to Clemson. Deion Burks, former Purdue wide receiver Deion Burks, has committed to Oklahoma. Now this cat, he has a lot of potential. I mean, a lot of potential. I don't want to take a shot at the young man. He has a lot of potential. I hopefully, let's just say he doesn't, he definitely is not shy about telling people how good he is. He has a lot of talent. In Oklahoma, he could explode in Norman. He very well, either way, bad or good. Keep an eye on Deion Burks at Oklahoma. He could end up being a superstar. He was on his way to being a superstar for the Purdue Boilermakers. It's a tough loss for Purdue. They're losing a lot of good talent in the portal this year, once again. And he goes to Oklahoma. And I just want to touch upon this. Tulane's John Summerall, the new head coach of Tulane, who came from Troy. Incredible 2 years head coach at Troy. We're going to make the college football playoff. This is what John Summerall said, Tulane's head coach. We're going to make the college football playoff, and we are going to win it. We are going to sell out this stadium every time we play in it. Big words from John Summerall, the head coach, the new head coach of the Tulane Green Wave. We're going to sell this thing out every time we play on it. We're going to get to the college football playoffs. We're going to win it. I don't know about the winning part about it, but it's interesting, right? These G5 coaches are selling the idea that their program, their football program is going to grow and they're going to get to the college football playoffs. They can sell that now. They can actually, I don't know about the winning part of it, but they can sell the fact that we're going to the playoffs. Come join our team. We're going to the playoffs. By the way, we have a chance to get to the college football playoffs. Buy your season tickets today. Get on the bandwagon. Again, you guys know how much I am a proponent, how much I support the playoff access that the G5 schools are going to be receiving in 2024, 2025, and hopefully 2026 and beyond. We do not know if they're going to be able to get the playoff access for 2026 and beyond. I think they will. I'm hoping they will, but we do not know. But that's just an example. Tulane's head coach saying, we're going to the playoffs, baby. And we're going to sell this stadium out every time we play in it. Exciting times for Tulane. Exciting times. I don't know what the latest word on Michael Pratt is, the great quarterback. Let me know in the chat. Has he announced that he's going in the portal? Maybe I missed that. I know I haven't talked about it here. If he's done that, let me know. Let me know if he's done that. Before we get to the other stories, I want to thank everybody for coming on in early here on a lazy Tuesday, December 12th afternoon. Karan Shakar first. Yep, he was first. Jeff was second. Michael Batts, early peak member. We are live. Nathan, how you doing, sir? Appreciate you coming on in. Jeff Sorgensen, keeping his head on a swivel. Don in Kansas, here we go. Early peak member, JD Turtle. Hey, Greg, how you doing, Turtle? Appreciate you coming on in. Joe is in the house. Hit like on the way in. Hit that like button. If you can. If you choose to, please do so right now. It helps us with the algorithm of YouTube so very much. If that like button gets smashed, Randy Taylor's in the house. Happy B12 Day. Early peak member Stephen McNeely's in the house. Mr. Buffalo Richard L is in the house. Jay Chapman, no SEC expansion without North Carolina. We're going to get to North Carolina. Tony, Greg, it's International Heavy Metal Day. Your thoughts? My thoughts. Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. That's my thoughts. That is my thoughts. Mick Stevens is in the house. Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye, early peak member. Expedition Greg, early peak member, is in the house. Daniel's in the house. Greg, billable hours are undefeated. Raider Vision is in the house. Okay. Thank you for all joining us this afternoon. Let's get to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Kind of save that for last when it comes to recruiting news that we're going to report on here at Peek Around the Corner today, December 12th. Are the Cornhuskers finally back? Are they getting ready to be back? The huge, great fan base. For 7 years, they've been in the wilderness. No bowl games. But are they back? Maybe not quite. Now, in the offseason, I declared that Texas was back. I said they were going to win the Big 12 championship, but I also said they were going to miss out and get into the college football playoffs. Obviously, I was wrong. But Texas is back. Is Nebraska on the doorstep of becoming finally back to relevancy in college football? 5:07 p.m. yesterday evening, Steve Wiltfong, the capitular head of 247 recruiting analysts, he is outstanding at what he does. If we were as all accurate as Wiltfong in our jobs that he is in his job, holy smokes. He puts out a tweet, 5:07 p.m. Flipped my 247 Sports crystal ball to Nebraska for 5-star quarterback Raiola. Dylan Raiola. Wow, this is unbelievable. This kid, I watched so much of his junior tape. His junior tape is spectacular. I haven't seen any of his senior tape this year in high school. Raiola has, of course, he has a father that's on the Nebraska Cornhuskers staff, offensive line coach. He is a premier quarterback. He has transferred to 3 different high schools. He's already decommitted, I think, 3 different times. He was with Georgia up until, well, it looks like he's going to get flipped to Nebraska. The one red flag is that this young man has already been to a bunch of different high schools and he's already decommitted multiple times in college. So hopefully for Nebraska's sake, if he commits, he goes and he stays there for more than a year. But this guy's high school tape is absolutely sensational. Pete Thamel. Nebraska coaches have communicated with in-state quarterback commitment Daniel Kaelin. And we've talked about, I've talked about Daniel Kaelin. His stock has actually gone down. He did not have a good senior year in high school. So I can see why, Nebraska kept after it with Raiola. Coaches have communicated with Daniel Kaelin that they are again in contention for commitment for top 10 recruit Raiola, who's committed to Georgia. Nebraska coaches have made it clear that they would still honor Kaelin's commitment. And this is Raiola. According to 247 Sports, he's the number 1 quarterback in the high school class, the number 1 player out of high school in Georgia, the number 2 player nationally. The kid has an arm. He's pretty well, how do I say it? He's got some strength, powerful strength in the lower part of his body. He's sturdy. He's not a twig by any means. He's got some bulk to him, and he can throw the ball. Kid can absolutely throw the ball. And Sean Callahan says 5-star quarterback Dylan Raiola will take an official visit to Nebraska this weekend. You also have to remember that Kyle McCord is going to Nebraska this week. So is the wide receiver Julian Fleming, going to Nebraska this week. So they have a former 5-star high school player in Kyle McCord who just had a full year at Ohio State, going to Lincoln, Nebraska for a visit, and then they have a 5-star high school recruit, Viola, going to Lincoln, Nebraska. So the potential is there. Now, Nebraska's always been full of potential, but they have not been good. More than a half a decade have not been good. So they are on the cusp. They are so close to getting some real high-level talent at the quarterback position in the football program. And with that, the possibilities of Nebraska elevating themselves once again to the top half of the Big Ten, that could be happening. It could be happening. It could be just right around the corner. So this is exciting times for Nebraska. You know, my question is, with Viola coming in, does that mean Kyle McCord's not going to come in? I don't know. I don't know, man. I do not know, but we're going to be keeping an eye on this story. It's a big story. So congratulations. Well, as of right now, congratulations to Nebraska. Congratulations to Nebraska. You're on the cusp of flipping Viola. Kyle McCord looks like he's still coming in for a visit. Congratulations to Notre Dame. Riley Leonard. TJ Ungale is visiting Florida State. Cameron Ward and Will Howard is visiting Miami. Deion Burks commits to Oklahoma. A lot of stuff going on in the portal, and we are following it all here at Peek Around the Corner as much as it's humanly possible. I want to get back into North Carolina. North Carolina. Now, people are asking, why are you so interested? Why are you talking about so much about North Carolina? Because, ladies and gentlemen, rule number 1 in realignment is realignment never sleeps. Rule number 2 is the school calls the conference first, not the other way around. And number 3 rule is it always starts the realignment wave with the biggest domino. And North Carolina is the biggest domino. And that is not a shot at Clemson. It's not a shot at Virginia. It's not a shot at Florida State, Miami, Florida. The interest that the SEC has with North Carolina tops everything. Pete Thamel has reported it. Paul Feinbaum has reported it. We have been told this. And we don't know the future of North Carolina. They don't know the future of North Carolina. The battle's being waged. We have talked about this over and over and over again. But there's been a lot of talk on Twitter, a lot of talk on the message boards, a lot of talk on other YouTube channels. And it's okay that we disagree. Thank goodness that we disagree. But there's been a lot of talk out there saying something's going to happen right now, real quick, this next month, January. Florida State, Big Ten, Florida State, Big Ten. I know I get it. And a lot of Florida State insiders are saying it's already been worked out, that everybody knows the numbers. Jim Phillips has been talking with this guy and that guy. We are working on this story, and I'm going to tell you something. We would be absolutely shocked here at Peek Around the Corner. We would be blown away if there was some announcement in January that Florida State's going to the Big Ten. Or this school is going there. Or the SEC is expanding with any of them in January. We would be absolutely blown away. Because there's too many hurdles. There's Nobody is there yet. That's what we're being told. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe we're off. And if we are, we will take the L. We started the show by taking the L. We said that Leonard, the official announcement would happen Monday. It happened Tuesday. The littlest details we will take the L on. This would be a pretty big detail, right? But we would take it. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to be the one, once again, to put the brakes on. Just like the Colorado story. We had all the information here, guys, gals. We knew the meeting was happening before it happened. We waited for it. We were making sure it wasn't canceled at the last minute. We knew about the May 7th Chicago meeting. There was only a handful of people who really knew about what was happening. We were one of them, and we were giving it to you in the information in the Holy Smokes Theater. But during that late May and June, there was an announcement from pretty much so many Twitter accounts, so many message boards, so many YouTube channels saying, it's done. Colorado into the Big 12. And we kept saying to you, no, it's not done. And then it finally happened on July 27th. We had to put the brakes on everybody almost during that whole summer. But at the same time, telling the people who were saying stuff like, none of this was going to happen, saying that Colorado's talking to the Big 12, all these are lies, and everything. At the same time, having to push back on those group of people who had absolutely no clue what was going on. All they could talk about was some sort of conspiracy. So I find myself in the position once again that I'm being the brake man. Hold on. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. This is an article. Now, at the same time, and let's be clear, we were the ones that said in the first quarter of 2024, we believe there's going to be some statement, some announcement by Florida State and Clemson to say, this is our intention. We are going to attempt to do this. We want to do this. ACC, you need to work with us. Something in that general area. And we've said this since December 26, 2022. But we do not believe anything gets decided in January, next month. We don't even know how that's even possible in so many different ways. Again, we talked about this. I talked about this in an episode that we dropped, I believe, yesterday or Sunday. It might have been Sunday. I don't know, Monday or Sunday. This was written up on Friday. I think we dropped it yesterday. WRAL News. North Carolina Chancellor will make $1 million at Michigan State. The contract shows. Departing North Carolina Chancellor Kevin Gusowich will make more than $1 million at Michigan State. We don't have to go. We're going to skip through most of the article that I went through on an episode here at Peek Around the Corner. And if you want to listen to the whole episode, go back to the YouTube channel and find it and watch the whole thing. It talks about all the things that Gusowich is going to get at Michigan State. Again, he was the chancellor at North Carolina. He was the silent pro-Big Ten voice in leadership, also with Bobby Cunningham. We also said that in the last few months that the board leans to the SEC, the boosters are split, and the fan base is SEC. This is Ralph Meekins, the North Carolina Board of Trustees member, Ralph Meekins. It's a sad day. Said North Carolina Board of Trustees member Ralph Meekins, who has been a critic of the board's current majority. The majority that has been against Kevin Gusowich. Meekins told WRAL News, Gusowich is a fine man. He said he's been an incredible chancellor, and had we as a board of trustees treated him different, with more respect, I believe he'd still be here and we'd be better off. Ralph Meekins, the board members that agree with him, they are in the minority. And as I said in the episode, you might be asking, Greg, what does this have to do with possible realignment? And my answer in the episode, and my answer to you right now is simply, it means everything. The battle is being waged right now at North Carolina. And I keep saying this, I'm going to keep telling you this. We have people in spots that are going to be able to tell us what is going on. So, if you're interested in the deep details of this battle that's being waged, we're going to be able to give it to you. Not today, but we're going to be able to give it to you. And so this is going to decide whoever gets the chancellorship job in North Carolina is going to be part of the pro-SEC faction or the Big Ten faction. And I know that sounds easy. I know that sounds too easy, but that is reality. That is what we believe to know because it's been told to us, and everything is going the way how it was told to us. Right now, it's no question. Right now, it's advantage SEC. And of course, if you listen to Paul Feinbaum, if you listen to Pete Thamel, if you listen to just about anybody, North Carolina is their number one target. Having said all of that, I want to make something clear here. And then I'm going to get to your comments and phone calls. You can talk about anything in Big Ten. Big Ten. You can talk anything in college football. Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, anything you want. Okay? I put up a tweet earlier today. I'm going to have to make this smaller, I guess. There we go. I put up a tweet earlier today. I said, because and again, people disagree with us here, Peek Around the Corner, and that is just fine. I just want to make it perfectly clear to you all what we have been told by multiple parties and people. SEC is interested in North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Florida State. When the opportunity arises, we'll see if the SEC eats at ACC tables first, and how it will play out internally at UNC and the Virginia Tech situation, and if too many bridges have been burned between Birmingham and Tallahassee. So when I say the SEC is interested in these four universities, I'm standing by that. And it's okay if you disagree with me. I want to make it clear, though, while North Carolina is their top target, they're waiting to see what the leadership, how it plays out politically at North Carolina, the whole Virginia situation. And I know the SEC and Florida State, that no doubt about it, relationships are very important, and now that's as cold as ice. But if you gave up, in my opinion, my strongly held opinion, and those who give information to PATC, those who've been so incredibly accurate with so much different realignment waves, the SEC is interested in these four universities. Varying degrees, varying of opportunities. I think when people are claiming that the SEC has no interest in Virginia, we would not agree. If people are saying the SEC has no interest in Clemson, we no way. We cannot go there. We do not agree. If people are saying absolutely SEC has no interest in Florida State, can't go there. It's not what we're being told. And in this tweet here, it's fortunate for all four schools that the Big Ten also has varying degree of interest for all of them. Long road ahead. It won't be decided in January. We would be shocked if it was decided any time soon. And we mean that. The Big Ten also has varying degrees of interest and possibly opportunities in the months ahead for these 4 universities. It might be that the Big Ten has no opportunity for any of those 4 universities, even if there is a realignment wave, because the SEC takes them all. Or the Big Ten could get 1 or 2 of those. But my point is, all 4 of these universities, there is varying degrees of interest from the SEC in the Big Ten. I'm not trying to take the easy way out. I'm just telling you from what we are hearing, nobody, these 4 schools in particular, I would not use a pen to cross any of those schools out for the Big Ten and the SEC. There's just too much unknown, starting at the top with North Carolina. And we're going to follow that story because we know that story is important. And there are other reporters out there that know that story is important. The battle internally at North Carolina, that is important for this next realignment wave. The Virginia Tech, that's going to be massive. I don't know. Look, all we can do here at Peek Around the Corner is to give you the lay of the land, just like when we said USC called the Big Ten when nobody had that information. Nobody. We got raked over the coals. All we can do is give you the lay of the land. And I'm going to tell you something. It is, we don't believe any of it is firmed up. Any of it is firmed up. And this is not going to get decided in January. We believe there's going to be some important movement in this story in the first quarter of 2024. And you guys have known we've been saying this for almost now for 1 entire year. We said it December 26, 2022. We did not say that a certain school was going to be in a certain conference in the first quarter of 2024. Something major is going to happen, though. We believe. We have reasons to believe that Clemson's and Florida State, for example, are the most ready to make this statement in the first quarter of 2024. That's why we've had them at the center of the stage in the Holy Smokes Theater. The same reason we had Colorado alone at the center of the stage, we have Clemson and Florida State at the center of the stage because they are the most ready to put their foot in the water and say, this is what we want in the future. We don't have North Carolina on the stage. We've never had North Carolina on the stage. And this is well before the Kevin Gusowich leaving to Michigan State because we knew of the rock fight at North Carolina. They are not aligned. We were reporting to you guys on this for months. And now it's really heated up. I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know who the next chancellor in North Carolina is going to be. I'm going to be able to get you some names. I believe so. I'm pretty confident. We are very fortunate to have a couple. We are very fortunate. I believe I'm going to be able to get you some good information on this. So, and then you get down to the, and then the whole Virginia Tech is, you know, it's going to be an issue. it's going to be a huge issue. And how that plays itself out affects everything else around it. So, no. We think the first quarter in 2024 is going to be very important to how the ACC implosion happens, when it starts. But we do not think, by any measure, that this gets decided in January or February or March. It's too much. It's too much to go through. That is what we've been getting told for forever. Everything's going the way we thought it was going to go. And now I'm the one who's putting on the brakes again, just like the Colorado thing, because everyone's jumping over, going to the end game. We are getting close to the end of the beginning. We're getting close to getting to the end of the beginning of the story. We're not going to the end of the story in January. Way too many. We're not there yet. We're not even close to being there yet. And I understand the calendar. I understand the calendar. The Great Gold Rush of 2026. We've got the NCAA versus the House versus NCAA. These schools are going to be paying over a massive amount of money in suits. They're trying to get the Charlie Baker and his proposal, revenue sharing, so many things going on. I think it's pretty much, I'm not going to say anything's impossible, but it's pretty much impossible for the ACC implosion to start and end in January or the first quarter 2024. We believe the story gets moved forward. Okay. And we've been told that since December 26, 2022. Richard L. for the Cherry Coke Zero Fun. Thank you so much for the super chat, Richard. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for coming on in, representing Colorado, Buffalo. Thank you so very much, Richard. Yeah, I see some comments about D5 Terps. Flugs, have you heard of any ACC teams that have reached out to the Big 12? No, definitely not officially. Nope. Now, has there been somebody with some loose affiliation? Well, let's say the University of Pittsburgh talking to somebody potentially in Big 12, talking about the future, and yeah, but nothing serious, nothing serious. And and again, this is not a shot at the Big 12. It isn't. It's not a shot at the Big 12. I just don't. I think there is, again, almost zero chance that a North Carolina ends up in the Big 12. I think there's almost zero chance Clemson ends up in the Big 12. I think there's almost zero chance Florida State ends up in the Big 12. Virginia and Virginia Tech is a little bit tricky, I gotta say. I'm not going to say zero chance. That is a whole story unto itself. So, however this starts, the ACC implosion, however it starts, Brett Yormark has a really good chance of ending it at the end of the story. where he could expand the Big 12 conference. But I don't think the Big 12 is going to play a part in the start of it or in the middle of it. But I think they're going to play a part at the end of it. Again, number 3 rule at PATC realignment rules. Number 3 rule, the third one, is it starts at the top. The domino starts at the top. The Big 12 is not at the top of this story. So we saw long ways from there. Okay. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Anybody can give us a call. Talk about college football. Anything college football. I think Georgia's going to be just fine with Carson Beck. They did lose their other quarterback that was in the program, highly recruited Van Griff. But I don't see them panicking. Again, Raiola has a great tape, great arm. We'll see if he commits to Nebraska. We'll see if he stays committed, if he stays there. That's the one red flag that he has. But when it comes to his ability, holy smokes. He's something else. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. The phone lines are open. Give us a call. Talk about anything college football. Congrats to Clemson. I believe that was soccer, correct? National champions. Congratulations to Clemson.
Call from
crab cakes and football.
Crab cakes and football. The floor is yours, sir. What do you got to say?
Hey, a question that's been on my mind for a while, but I really haven't asked. But like the smaller teams in each of the SEC and the Big Ten, the less prominent teams, I guess is a better way. Maryland, Minnesota, Rutgers, Indiana, Purdue, all the ones that when they do step up, it's every now and then, but it's more down than up. When are they eventually going to stand up and say enough is enough, do you think? And the same thing with the SEC, Vanderbilt's and South Carolina.
Stand up and say enough is enough about what?
About expansion.
Minnesota. I will tell you, Minnesota. I'm just going to give you Minnesota as an example. Because I know this for 100% fact. Minnesota has been for every expansion that the Big Ten has done, that has gone through. They were for Penn State. They were for Nebraska. They were for Rutgers and Maryland. They were for USC. They were for Oregon and Washington. And they're going to be for the Southeast. The reason is the reason why that these other, now Rutgers, they also kind of said, whoa, on the addition of Oregon and Washington. But they know it's coming back. The Big Ten's going to do one more expansion in the Southeast. The reason why the middling schools wanted expansion from the Big Ten, the reason why the middling schools and the SEC wanted Oklahoma and Texas, because it creates more value for the rest, for the conference. Okay, so I'll give you an example. The 30 extra media dollars, $35 million media money, okay? The University of Minnesota is going to get, because the conference has expanded in value so much, right? They know that Michigan State's going to get the same. They know that Maryland's going to get the same. They know eventually Oregon's going to get it. They know Wisconsin, their heated rival, is going to get it. So it doesn't help Minnesota versus any of the Big Ten schools that are in their conference. But it helps Minnesota versus everybody else, right? It helps Minnesota versus the Iowa State. It helps versus all these other schools that in all these other conferences. It gives Minnesota at least a monetary advantage. This is something. This is something I generally don't think people quite have yet to grasp. Everybody's trying to increase the value of their unit of their athletic department because they know that everything's going to change. These student athletes are going to get more and more money. So these Big Ten schools that don't necessarily challenge for the Big Ten championship in football, but they do in other sports, right? They have wanted to, they want the Big Ten to be as valuable as possible. Mississippi State, Mississippi, Vanderbilt, they wanted Texas and Oregon to come into the conference because they knew they were going to get more money. Same thing with the Big 12 schools. They knew if they could poach the Pac-12, they would not fall off the table. So they wanted this expand. Minnesota, schools like, I'll just use Minnesota. The fear of a Big Ten fracture where schools leave the conference, you know what? That could happen, crab cakes in football. That could happen. But it also could happen if they weren't expanding and increasing the value of the conference. As long as the value of the conference increases because of the expansion, it's a good move for all the universities in the conference. Minnesota is the original member of the Big Ten, one of the 6. They're the ones who got Ohio State. They're the ones who've recruited every single school that's in the Big Ten right now. So they are not, they don't look at it in the way that other people outside the conference saying, Minnesota is collecting a welfare check every year. Minnesota is not stealing the golden ticket. Minnesota and Purdue printed out the golden ticket, right?
Right.
So these middling schools and these SEC and the Big Ten, they actually want their conference to get more valuable because it protects them more and gives them advantages of schools outside the conference versus other schools. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that answers that question.
Oh, it does, because I was just worried that everybody's looking at it from a football standpoint, which, okay, yes, that's the number one sport, and that's like the biggest piece of the pie. But like you mentioned, there's other sports that are involved that they get pretty much no say. I mean, lacrosse, soccer, baseball, to an extent basketball, but they actually get a say. But all these other sports, I won't name them all. And I'm thinking to myself, if you go down to the southeast, okay, let's say Big Ten grabs 2, name 2, don't matter, it could be any 2, and everything else, that bumps them up to 20. What's to stop them from going to 24? And I'm thinking eventually there has to be a stop sign put up that says, okay, for the welfare of the conference, enough is enough. Yes. We might have a valued property out there, but let's just not worry about it and let SEC or somebody else have them.
Yeah, there is. And the stop sign could be coming up after the next wave, but I don't think it's there yet because there's still value. The Big Ten wants to get into the Southeast, and the SEC is going to expand their footprint again. I don't think we're quite there yet, but you do bring up a good point. Eventually, the stop sign will be put up. And then, the conferences could start fracturing. But you'd rather be in a conference with a whole lot of value that fractures instead of being in a conference without much value and it fractures. So,
because, I can only speak from a Maryland point of view. When we came into the league, we had nothing. We were like dead last in every freaking realm there was. No Jones Hill House. We had a decrepit stadium. We had nothing. Well, now if you go back and look now, we still got the stadium. At least it looks better, and we have a Jones Hill House. We got the indoor practice facility, and we're building ourselves. So the money's real, and the money's there to improve athletics. And I'm even hearing rumors that eventually we might even renovate the actual stadium, which I can't wait for. But at some point the money's got to run dry, and it's not going to be there forever. So that's my main point out of all this is, as much as we love expansion and as exciting as it is, at some point in time it's going to do more harm than good.
Yep.
And that's where I'm afraid it's going to happen.
Yep. You make a good point.
So, all right, man. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'll get off here. Have yourself a good one.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Crab cakes and
Yes,
football, Mr. Terrapin. Kenneth Evans, they only care about the money instead of the product. Don't know about that. Kenneth Evans, show me the money is the Big Ten mantra. First of all, you need money to pay the bills. Second of all, like for example, Minnesota. There is Olympic sports Minnesota that is is taken very seriously in the state. We spend the most amount of money on hockey, by far. We also receive the most revenue in hockey, by far, across the country. Most of the players in college hockey come from the state of Minnesota. It's a revenue maker at this Minnesota, and we're able to pour more money into what the Minnesotans love, which is hockey, because of the value and success of the Big Ten Conference as a whole. Same thing with wrestling. Same thing with sports across the Big Ten. Look at women's volleyball. Look at all the money getting poured in and increasing these stadiums, these volleyball stadiums for women volleyball, to pavilions. Look at the increased seating in pavilions across all these institutions. Because of the success of the Big Ten Network, the money. So yeah, money helps. Money helps grow. And they care about the product. Like the Gophers, for example. They just had their best, before this year, they just had their best 3 years of football since 62, 63, 64. So money is important, but it's not everything. But it's going to become more important because of the revenue sharing. The student athlete's going to get more and more money in their pockets. That's why Texas and Oklahoma call the SEC. Not because it's going to be easier, because they're going to get more resources. It's the reason why the Big 12, it's the reason why Brett Yormark did all that he did for the Big 12. Brett Yormark's not getting, it's not like Brett Yormark, like somebody, some mobsters, or somebody said to Brett Yormark, hey, Brett Yormark, if you add 4 Pac-12 schools, we'll buy you a yacht off the state of New Jersey or wherever he's from. Whatever. Brett Yormark did what he did so the Big 12 schools would have as much resources and opportunity as possible going forward. Big 12 wanted to survive. They wanted to be in the room. They wanted to poach the Pac-12. It's called survival, and then it's called flourishing. It's called growing. He's doing all this work for the brand. Why? To bring in more money, to bring in more exposure. SEC does. Everybody's doing the same thing. It is important. It's important. Jamie Thornton, the big question is going to be who will be left out of the Big Ten and SEC, because those schools have to decide what to do and will be shafted for a generation or more. The money loss will be awful. I don't think anybody's going to be left out of the Big Ten and SEC until, if it happens, where there's going to be some other formation of, a 24, 36 team Super League. And I don't see that happening for if it happens, for a long time down the road. In fact, Jamie, I don't believe in this Power 2 stuff at all. I believe in a Power 2 that the Big Ten and the SEC are the most powerful conferences. We all knew that. We've known that for decades, couple decades, at least the last decade. But I don't believe in this Power 2 that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to cut off playoff access to the ACC and the Big 12. I think that is the biggest bunch of... I don't think that's happening. No way does that happen. I don't see it. I do not see it. At least for many years down the road. So, larger conferences are becoming bigger for economic reasons. Conferences are becoming bigger for consolidation economic reasons. Conferences are becoming bigger because conferences are becoming more and more important because the courts are basically saying they should be more and more important. If the economics changes where it's beneficial for these conferences to fracture, hopefully I will be still alive so we can report on that here at Peek Around the Corner. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Call from Jamie.
Jamie, the floor is yours. Mrs. Arkansas Razorback.
Woo, Pig Suey. Okay. I don't have anything to get that excited about just because, Mr. Neck Brace is back in town. But,
yes. That should be exciting.
Yeah, that's the excitement for Arkansas right now.
Yeah.
We've got this guy back and everybody else keeps leaving. Oh, we did get the Boise State quarterback, I guess. So, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I hope you're right on the Power 2. The thing that scares me about it is the money. And then we start seeing maybe some kind of huge deal from somebody that says, hey, we want to form this whole thing where we separate the two. I hope not. And the way I get the feeling, we've already seen it happen this year with FSU, right, with the playoff committee,
yeah,
and what happened there, how they got left out. I get this really strange feeling that what they would love to see, because they've already got an extra playoff spot with the Pac-12 gone, I think they would love to see I think the Big and the SEC would love to take these ACC schools and hope the Big 12 comes in, like you said, and eats up, and then they can also do the same thing to the ACC. They can say, yeah, you can say the ACC name, but we're going to, you're not going to be essentially a Power 4. They're going to try to cut it down to a Power 3, and then that gives them another slot. I think that's going to happen way before any kind of possible break off, kind of like you said.
Yeah,
and I hope it doesn't.
Yep.
That would just give them another spot. I mean, that would just give essentially the SEC and the Big Ten another spot to to feast on. But yeah, I just want to tell you, I can't tell you enough. I've reached out. I told you months back about a radio report that ESPN Radio had been replaying from Chris Lowe, who is a very respected, very long time senior reporter. And I did confirm, he did get back to me and confirm that in that report, he was saying yes. He was saying that they didn't have any information given about who they were going after at the time. This was actually, he said, last fall, I believe. But I think he said last October, last year. But he did say, he said that Greg Sankey has mentioned to him North Carolina, which we're all talking about. And he said, by the way, on that, he said the SEC, all their chips are on North Carolina right now. Just to prove your point again, everything they have on the table is for North Carolina.
And that's
but,
yep. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, but he really does like Miami. He really likes Miami from a standpoint of it's kind of been a little bit of a different market from where Florida and Florida State share essentially the same market across the northern and central part of the state. It's a very obviously it's a private school, but it's very academic. Academics is a big thing now.
Yep.
For the SEC, and that's something not to be overlooked. And of course, they want to keep the Florida pipeline. They want to keep the Florida recruiting. They do not want two of the 3 big Florida schools in the Big Ten. They want to have 2 of those if possible. So now they're not going to just go out and get Miami to get Miami, he said. But he said the situation, like he also mentioned to me that the Virginia situation is very tricky. They would love to have North Carolina and Virginia, but apparently Virginia is coming with Virginia Tech. That's going to probably pose some problems. Just like a lot of people might not know this, but Oklahoma begged the SEC to bring Oklahoma State. So a lot of people that Oklahoma State fans that might be in the chat that might be mad at Oklahoma, they tried everything they could, but the SEC was shaking their head no. And that's apparently the way they're feeling about Virginia Tech right now. So that could open up the door. He said, don't be surprised if you see maybe even North Carolina, or they love North Carolina so much, don't be surprised if they offer to sweeten the deal to bring Duke along. That's a possibility too. So you could be looking at UNC Duke. You could be looking at FSU and Clemson are both still on the table, he said too as well. So I just wanted to throw that out to you about kind of maybe the SEC's pecking order about what's going on. It just pretty much lines up with everything he said.
Yep, and that's just that. Now, there's many reasons why I don't think this story's going to end in January or February, because like the biggest domino piece is North Carolina.
Oh yeah, and they're not going to do anything, Greg, until North Carolina is decided. They're not going to make any moves.
And North Carolina doesn't. North Carolina they're in a rock fight right now internally, so they got to fill their chancellorship. So that has to happen. Let's see what happens in North Carolina. We'll see who the chancellor is. I believe I'm going to be able to give people information on who the more internal politics of that going forward, and that's gonna decide a lot of what happens after that. So I'm sorry to say this, but I think we're all gotta wait. There's gonna be some big stuff, I think, happening in the first quarter of 2024. I think people are gonna put some flags in the ground. I think Florida State and Clemson are gonna say something, but I don't think anything gets decided here real soon.
No doubt, Greg. And on top of that, even if you decide where you think you want to go, there's still that little matter of the grant of rights and the ACC that you're having to deal with. These aren't things that just get negotiated overnight as far as price. And, I mean, they could obviously leave, but are you going to say, okay, we'll just give the ACC the money and we'll just, our boosters or so forth, we'll get the money to kind of like an SMU situation? I don't know. I don't have any idea what's going to be decided about that because, hey, the ball is in the ACC's court on that. They're the ones that hold the grant of rights. They're the ones that hold that money. So is FSU going to just say, screw it, we're going to leave, and the ACC can keep the money, and we'll just get the boosters to pay us like SMU has done to get into the ACC? What's going to happen? That'll be very interesting to watch, too, I think, Greg.
Yeah. Beautiful, Jamie.
Yep. Thank you, man. I just wanted to say Woo Pig Suey again, and hopefully we get to hear my wife, you sing my wife's fight song for her school. Maybe one day Arkansas has a great fight song. I hope to hear the Greg the Cooler, become Greg the Heater once he sings that Arkansas fight song.
Now, but your wife is a Washington Husky, though, right?
Yeah, she's a big Husky. She's out of town right now this week.
Okay.
I mean, it made her day.
Right.
I actually called her when you were singing it, and she heard it, and she loved it. So.
Beautiful. All right, I'll work on the Arkansas. I owe Cameron B a Kansas Jayhawk song as well. I'll get on to it. Thank you.
You're the man, Greg. You have a great day.
Thank you. Cameron B, Big 12 1.0 was better than the Big 10. No TV killed it. Thank you, Cameron B, for the comment, for the phone, for your generosity to the channel.
Call from
Tristan Vibes.
Tristan, the floor is yours, good sir.
Hey there, Greg. I wanted to ask you a question. We're talking about North Carolina.
Yes.
You said that they're not aligned. There's a lot of opinions going in different directions. Wasn't there a story about 2 months ago, I think, where didn't some North Carolina lawmakers
step into the situation and say that no state university can change conferences without permission from the legislature or something? Wasn't that a story a couple of months ago?
You know what? I believe it was. Let me go check something. I believe someone might have brought it up, but I don't think anything became, I don't think anything came out to be like a legislative bill that was passed. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Right. Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and look it up while you talk here. I do remember something like that. I do know, and this is part of. Okay, Justin Lucas, thank you so much. The Speaker of the House, Justin Lucas in the chat. The Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, and Senate President Phil Burgess said UNC and North Carolina State should stay together. I do remember that, but I don't think anything. North Carolina University Assistant Board of Governors. I don't think anything's officially state law, but there has been people talking about how North Carolina State and North Carolina should stay together. And of course, as you know, Tristan, same thing is happening in the state of Virginia.
Right. Yeah. I think it kind of makes sense if those schools know that the conference that they're in just isn't going to hold together. It does make sense, in my opinion, that they would want to stay together in whatever conference they went to.
Yes.
The question is, would either the SEC or the Big Ten take all four of them?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
And I don't know the answer to it either. But I think we have to talk about it, just like you are, Tristan, because it is one of these big stories within this big story. It's its own individual piece. And it affects everything. And that is why we are nowhere close to any decisions or any conclusions in January of 2024, February, March. Even though I keep talking about the first quarter is going to be important to push the story forward, nothing's getting decided in our hard and strongly held opinion. And you just gave a great example why.
Yeah, and I think the previous caller might have mentioned the Duke situation. To me, it seems as though with ESPN being, the current rights holder for the SEC and the ACC, I think that they would have a lot of say in if there's going to be a university that goes with North Carolina into the SEC or the Big Ten. It seems like ESPN would have a lot of say in who that would be. That's just a feeling. I don't really know anything for sure, but that seems like that has to be a factor in all of this.
Yes. How big a factor? How strong of a hand will ESPN play in the ACC implosion, or how strong an invisible hand the ESPN will play in the implosion is really a great question and a very important question. I do believe, though, and I know Jamie brought up Duke. I do believe, how do I say this? Duke's an unbelievable university, incredible research dollars, right? Research expenditure dollars, great brand basketball. So I want to be careful how I say this. But in the realignment game, as of right now, if your goal was to get to the Big Ten or the SEC, I'd rather be in North Carolina State's seat than in Duke's seat.
Okay.
There is a reason, and I might end up being wrong on this, but there's a reason why North Carolina State was in the Magnificent Seven and Duke wasn't. North Carolina had to have North Carolina State in those Magnificent Seven meetings because of the politics of both public universities. So if North Carolina has the ability to grease the skids for another North Carolina school, I think it has to be North Carolina State over Duke.
Yeah, or another possibility to think about is it might be that within the SEC, there's a debate, should we take 3 schools from North Carolina, or stick to just 2, which means if they stick to 2, they might just end up with 1.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's tricky, and that's a hard sell. Like you've got Texas and Texas A&M are going to finally be kind of reunited in the same conference, and this is something that's going to be happening this upcoming year, calendar year. And now everyone in the conference is looking at the possibility of having to take North Carolina, NC State, and Duke, and that, to me, that sounds like a hard sell. I just don't think that they can pull that off. Personally, I don't see them doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It can only be 2 of the 3, and then the question becomes, well, who does ESPN want? It seems like they would have a say. And one thing to think about, Greg, is that we all know that the SEC's, their bread and butter is football. They don't really have as strong of a basketball product as some of the other conferences. And there might end up being a move here where they say, all right, let's just go in for improving our basketball product. And they might decide to say, okay, we'll take North Carolina and Duke, and then they might make a play for Kansas in an effort to improve the basketball product. So,
and plus you have the Kansas-Missouri thing.
Right, you reunite Kansas and Missouri, exactly.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is up in the air. I mean,
Yep.
the Holy Smokes Theater, Greg, you might need to rename it into the Holy Smokes Thunderdome, man, because anything can happen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for you and just give you some more grist for the mill.
You got it. Beautiful.
All right.
Thanks. Great
Hey,
comment, Tristan. Appreciate it.
All right. Keep up the good work. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Great call. Chris Hughes, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for the continued generosity to this YouTube channel. Why should the ACC negotiate 1 dime? I'll get right to it, Chris. Hold on.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can you hold 1 second, sir?
Sure.
Appreciate it. Chris Hughes, super chat. Why should the ACC negotiate 1 dime if it will lead to the implosion of the conference? Why would the ACC make all who want to leave pay dearly? Why should the ACC negotiate 1 dime if it will lead to the implosion of the conference? If it leads to the stability and the future of the schools in the ACC that are not going to make it in the SEC and the Big Ten or the Big 12. If they get in the negotiations, besides the whole pile of cash, which isn't going to be enough, besides the pile of cash, if they have the stability, if they continue the autonomy, force status, then there is incentive for those schools in the ACC to negotiate, for Jim Phillips to negotiate on their behalf. You saw what happened to the Pac-12. There was an implosion, although of course, the grant of rights was going to end in 2024. So we saw a bunch of schools leave. Stanford and California were scrambling. Oregon State and Washington State was left out. Eventually, let's just throw some schools in the mix right now. Let's say at Boston College, a Wake Forest, a Syracuse, maybe a Georgia Tech, a few other schools, knowing that they don't have anywhere to go, and they're not going to have anywhere to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now. Maybe it's better for them to have the settlement now, grab the cash, keep the autonomy force status, and have that. To me, is the only way they do negotiate, that Jim Phillips would negotiate on their behalf for stability into the years ahead. Because if not, then 2030, 2031, 32, 33, when it becomes more affordable for the ACC to implode, then those schools could be left out of the highest level of collegiate sports, period. So there could be an advantage and incentive for those schools to negotiate right now. Immaculate, I appreciate your patience, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, I thought I'd just call in since you're getting some pretty good realignment chat right now. Just give my own little 2 cents worth here. In terms of where these schools are going to go, I think everyone has their preferred, opinions on who goes where and which conference likes which schools. I don't think any conference right now is going to get their absolute ultimate combination. If there's any talk about whatever combinations to happen, I think that's their starting positions in like a negotiation, right? These are who we'd want. But is that actually going to happen? Like, number one, people like to look at North Carolina and Duke as a combo, but that's a basketball rivalry. And while that, is interesting, it's not pushing realignment. I've not seen any talk. I don't know if you have any talk about basketball yet. That's pretty much only coming from your mark and the future. And even his talks about basketball additions like Gonzaga and UConn, nothing came of it. There's just not that much there. I'd have a hard time believing that an institution like Duke wants to get involved that heavily in what's going on with the SEC. I could be wrong about it, but doesn't quite seem like something that pushes the needle. I think that there's people who really want to make the SEC look bigger in academics, and that makes sense. And why they might look at Duke for that over North Carolina State. But if you are, say, ESPN and you're looking to have to pay them, for this edition or whatever, Duke is not better than North Carolina State. I'm sorry, it's just not. They've had some boosted numbers here because they've had some good teams, and that's great. But that also carries us into talk about Clemson and what is the difference between in a school that has, heavy football success and what the numbers are while they're having success versus what they have when they don't have success. And Clemson has shown us that over this past season and how much their numbers have dipped. Duke would have that same dip from where they are right now if they actually didn't have success. Plus, they had the numbers of their Notre Dame game and their Clemson game. But in terms of what their value is when they're down, that's where I think Clemson has a problem. If without highly successful football, what are they?
Well, I'll just to play devil's advocate, which I love to play, by the way. Okay?
Absolutely.
What the difference with Clemson, and I know you know there's a lot of differences between a Clemson and a Duke, right? But what Clemson has is like not the market, whatever, but they have fan intensity. I mean, the fans buy Clemson stuff. They pour money into that program. It's why it got lifted up in the first place. They have poured huge money in that program. And I understand that the Clemson, the viewership and everything, and that basically is the same for all the ACC schools except for Florida State. That has more of a they years ago they broke out of the ACC branding. They became more of a national brand. But the how can I say this? Just the pure fan intensity of Clemson football makes it a valuable brand. And I, for one, although I'm nowhere near declaring where I have I don't even want to speculate on it now because there's so many unknowns. There's so many stories within the story. But I think Clemson is going to end up in a SEC or a Big Ten conference. But I understand what you're saying. But there is a difference between a Clemson and many other brands, is that they are fan base is so turned on to Clemson, to football.
Is that how it's always been, or is that how it is now because they've had this string of
That's
highly
how it was
successful
before Dabble Swing. I mean, that's why they built them. That's why they elevated themselves, because they're in that part of South Carolina, my geography is so bad. Southwest South Carolina. That place is football fanatic. So I happen to think Clemson, the day, I believe Clemson will end up in the Big Ten or the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, what you're telling me, though, you're telling me SEC stuff. You're not really telling me Big Ten stuff, from my perspective, and I could be wrong. And you can obviously disagree with that and be more of a Big Ten expert than me. Just my perspective, that doesn't sound Big Ten. Like, yeah, you've got great fans, but that's not enough. Like, that's great for the SEC. I just don't see that as enough. Like, we just saw a huge dip in their network viewing for this past season. I think if you're the Big Ten, you got to look at that and you got to say, okay, so we're seeing where their rabid fan base is at, and that's not anywhere near where Florida State is. What we were seeing, their higher numbers of viewership nationally, was when they're successful.
You know what?
But what happens when they're not?
You are making a great argument, and I get, they don't check the box. They don't check enough boxes, Big Ten boxes. They don't, or they might not. I get all that.
I'm just talking about, like, when they're down, what value do they bring?
And you make even a great point on that. But but I know, and people can take this however they want to take it. I just know that the Big Ten has interest. Mm-hmm. But even more importantly, or as important, or maybe not as important, but the Clemson has they perceive they have interest from the Big Ten and the SEC. So I guess what I'm saying is, and you make a lot of great points, Immaculate, and other people others as well. From a PATC, from what we believe to know, what we've been told is that Clemson, when it comes to options, same with Florida State, same with North Carolina, they're in a really good spot.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Could that spot be because the number of schools that could possibly be first out the door is extremely limited?
It could be one of the reasons, yes.
Yeah, as someone to do that, Florida State may only have one other option to go with them. Like, North Carolina might be able to do this, but they, they might have a North Carolina State problem. They might have a North Carolina Board of Governors problem.
Yes, they might.
And so they might not be able to break out, and Clemson might be the only school that could do that with them. So, to me, that's their greatest value, is a value of immediacy. And I think that's why we see them, according to you largely, but according to others as well, that they're looking to get out sooner rather than later. Because I think that their greatest value, in my opinion, is to be part of that first duo out.
Yeah.
If that happens without them, I think their value is dramatically decreased, because I think the shake to the foundation of the ACC happens without them. And all of a sudden, a bunch of other schools are now looking around, just like we saw with the Pac.
You make a great point. I mean, one of the most valuable parts of Colorado was that they
Yeah.
were the first ones out the door, right?
Yeah. Without
Well,
that, what were they?
Same thing with Clemson.
Yeah.
And they are ready to make some sort of. They're far more ready than everybody else, except for possibly Florida State, and that's going to give them value as well. But
And I know, I love listening to your new caller, Jamie. I very much enjoy it, and she's talking about the UNC Duke rivalry, which is something. It sure is, but the UNC Virginia rivalry is longer and older, and those two schools are very similar. And I would dare say, I could be wrong, that if UNC had to pick one or the other, but they're picking Virginia and not Duke. I could be wrong on that, but that's where the history is. And quite frankly, the UNC Duke basketball rivalry, I don't actually even think it's quite what it used to be, because let's be honest, both of those teams aren't quite what they used to be in basketball. They used to be the dominant powers. I could argue that Virginia is a better basketball program than them right now.
Yeah.
And that's largely because of, the one and done, in my opinion, have actually damaged major basketball programs, which opens up a whole nother conversation about what NIL reform and all that could actually do for basketball and the return of the major powers in basketball. If players start staying longer than 1 year in basketball because they're actually getting paid, because a lot of those guys, when they go up early, they end up just going to the G League, or they don't end up doing a whole lot. Some of them do good, but a lot of them, the ones that we don't talk about, they get shuffled to the side. So I think if once they start getting better money in men's basketball, I think a lot of these teams are going to come back, but that doesn't do any good right now. And so right now, I don't think that Duke really adds to the pie. Whereas Virginia, part of why the SEC is doing this, in my opinion, is only to block the Big Ten. What do you think? I mean, I think that they really want to add anyone right now. They still have to bring in Oklahoma and Texas. Like, the Big Ten was not happy to bring in Oregon and Washington so soon at the exact same time as USC, UCLA. But that was forced upon them as well. So I don't think that the SEC is rabid about expansion right now, but if they're going to, UNC Virginia expands the geographic footprint in states that they would actually want in their geographic footprint, whereas UNC Duke is just doubling up in the same one with, quite frankly, Duke, a school that, its main power is in a sport that's only maybe 20% of your TV deal, doesn't have a huge actual following. I can appreciate why people would like that. The name recognition, the brand, the school power. But I guess I'm not going to buy that one until I see it. But it's interesting that people are talking about that in the SEC world. So I think that's cool that she brings that forward. I have a hard time seeing that for now. I don't know what you think on that, but I mean, the likes of North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Virginia, that's just a nice little circle of rivalries right there. I mean, just count them up. You got Virginia, you got Virginia Tech, you got Virginia and North Carolina, you got North Carolina and North Carolina State, you got North Carolina State and Virginia Tech. In the future, where we're getting these larger memberships, rivalry games matter quite a lot, because you're only going to need a school to fill maybe 2 slots in a year, and then they've done their part. And that might be just being a game where the team that's being followed nationally, say like Alabama's on a run, and they come into North Carolina State, you want to know that school's stadium is going to be loud and raucous and great for TV and full. Number one, be full. And North Carolina State and Virginia Tech fill that bill. Like, I know people are looking at some of the stats for Virginia Tech that just came out for TV, and it's not good, but there is an explanation for that. So we'll see how it goes. And I'll leave it with that. But just remember, like, these schools' names are being thrown out right now. This is all part of early negotiations about what we're going to take, what you're going to take. Good on the SEC if they can get their perfect lineup for that. I kind of think nobody's going to get that. So we'll leave it at that, Greg.
Okay.
Appreciate it as always.
You guys on tonight?
They are. I can't. I have other work I got going on. I think tomorrow I might be doing something with mowing.
Got
But
it.
the boys are definitely going to be on tonight, so check it out.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, everybody. Let's get to the breaking news. Breaking news. The evil Badgers Tyler Van Dyke goes to the Wisconsin Badgers transfer portal. Let's take a look at his statistics. 2021 was his best year. 2,900 yards from the Miami, Florida Hurricanes, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was going to be a superstar at Miami. 2022, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, got nicked up, and he got in trouble with the fan base. He took some shots at his own fan base. 2023, he was throwing up all types of... Not only was it 12 interceptions, there could have been like 6 more interceptions. He, I don't know. And he was also injured in the last couple games of the season. Tough kid, no question about it. I'm going to tell you, and I'm not saying this because I am biased against the evil Badgers, which I am. I'm not scared of Tyler Van Dyke. No, I'm not scared of Tyler Van Dyke. In fact, now I know for sure the Minnesota Golden Gophers are bringing home the axe to Minnesota. Tyler Van Dyke, step on up. Step on up. Let's go. Last game of the season, 2024 in... I don't know where that game's being played at. Don't matter. Doesn't matter. The axe is coming home. Son of Syracuse. This is the best Wisconsin can do. Wisconsin. Tyler Van Dyke. Congratulations to Tyler Van Dyke. He wanted out of there last year. He wanted out of Miami. Miami is interviewing Cameron Ward. Cameron Ward today. Washington State transfer quarterback Cameron Ward is expected to take an official visit to Miami on Tuesday today, and also Will Howard. Will Howard is also visiting Miami. So Will Howard, Cameron Ward, they are an absolute upgrade over Tyler Van Dyke. And is Tyler Van Dyke, is he an upgrade over Tanner Mordecai? Is he? I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. Very, very interesting. All I know is that the Gophers got their transfer quarterback early on, the best FCS quarterback in the country, Max Brosmer from the mighty New Hampshire. I don't know what their mascot is. But that's who we're going with, baby. That's who we're going with. Okay.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminoles on the line. The floor is yours, good sir.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm all fired up because Wisconsin Badgers, the evil Badgers, got their hands on Tyler Van Dyke. And I think you agree with me on this one. Maybe not. I don't want to put words in your Seminole mouth. But Tyler Van Dyke does not impress me at all. What do you think?
Mario ruined him, and I say ruined him. Mario he's a great recruiter. He is not a good coach. And I think people are starting to get wise on that now. So, but he kept throwing him out there hurt.
Yeah, he's banged up.
Last year they did it in 2022. They did it again this year. And then he became so gun shy that it just mentally he just wasn't there. And see, when he was there that first year, what was the Duke new head coach? What's his name again? Manny Diaz. Actually, he was the FSU grad, so I should remember him. Rhett Lashley was there. The SMU coach was the offensive coordinator, and Van Dyke thrived under him because it wasn't a 1, 2, 3, 4 check downs. It was one check, maybe two, and that's it. You know, there wasn't. He didn't have to do a lot of scanning the field and everything else, and that just wasn't his thing. You know, read throw. That's his thing, and you know, there's some of these guys that can dissect the defense, and some they just can't. You know, so Tyler's never been one that's proven that he can. So maybe is it Fickle that's up there? Luke Fickle that's at Wisconsin. Is that right?
Longo Fickle. Yep.
And maybe he can resurrect that. How many years of eligibility does Tyler have?
I think he's got one more. Let's see. He's got one more. 21, 22, and 23. He played more than 4 games in all those seasons. I'm going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see. There it is. 2020 doesn't count. He played 10 games in 21, 9 games in 22, 11 games in 23.
Gotcha. So, you know, I wish the best for the kid. I mean, you know, Jordan Travis didn't start out great, and then he ended up a great quarterback.
Yes.
You know,
you're right. Yep.
And so, you know, I don't have any ill will towards the kid. I hope he figures it out.
Yeah.
And he can get back to where he was. But on the realignment thing, I just think that there's just a lot of assumptions that are being made, and it goes back to our previous conversation last week. People don't know that FSU and Clemson are going to have to do this in a multi-step process. They just don't know. And so when the SEC says they're going to wait on North Carolina, here's one thing I can promise you. FSU's not waiting on North Carolina.
I do have some breaking news.
Okay.
Can I just break in and I will give you the time back, sir?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, JD. Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times. In short, Florida's Attorney General opened an antitrust investigation into the playoff and sent what was essentially a civil subpoena for docs related to votes, communication with ESPN, SEC, ACC, NCAA, and info on the availability of key players discussion. A whole article was written on it. That's in short. I do not have, I'm not able to get into the, I guess I am. The Attorney General, I'm a lifelong Gator, but I'm also the Florida Attorney General, and I know what injustice when I see it. Moody said in a statement, no rational person, a college football fan, can look at the situation and not question the result. So that's the breaking news. Sure.
Well, DeSantis is very friendly with all the universities. Mm-hmm. And then the CFO in the state of Florida, that's actually an elected position, Jimmy Petronas. He's an FSU guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got him and then some of the other politicians that have been coming to bat for FSU over the season because the NCAA has done FSU dirty 2 years in a row, one with a basketball player and another with a football player. They were giving waivers to kids from other universities, and they weren't giving it to FSU. And one of the old athletic directors is now I think Stan Wilcox, and he's up there in the NCAA. I don't know if it's his department that helps clear waivers and so on, but something's up because they don't ever get the benefit of the doubt in any capacity. It seems like in the last few years. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. Nothing's going to happen as far as the playoffs already decided. That's decided.
Yeah.
But as far as realignment goes, I have zero belief that the exit fees will be $300, $400, $500 million, as a lot of people believe. Because I believe that once FSU and Clemson announce their intention to leave, there's going to be a little bit of a panic, not just from the members of the ACC, but from the ACC administration. They're going to want to solidify the conference as quickly as possible. They're going to want that money. They don't want that. They don't want the lack of a payout hanging out for 2 to 3 years while they're preparing to leave. They're going to want the money or the promise of the money, and that's why I thoroughly believe. I could throw out a number, and you'll probably roll your eyes like there's no way it'll be that little, but it'll be much less than what people believe. That's my opinion. We'll see how it all.
I'm not sure if I know how to roll my eyes, but yes, I would. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be above the number that you have it, but I won't roll my eyes because I don't know if I know how to do that.
I don't have any belief it's going to be over the 200, and I think it's going to be.
I think it's going to be over 200. Well, we'll see.
I think it's going to be about 80 to 150.
Okay. And
that's my guess. There's some people that are suggesting the 80. I just don't think so. People wonder, does FSU have the money? Yes. They could write that check today for the 80. And actually all they would do is just tell the ACC, don't give us our conference buyout, our conference payment for this year. And then and they have at least one booster that's ready to stroke a $50, $60 million check right now. We know that for sure. So they could pay $100 million basically towards it today, and that's in the bylaws. That as you exit, you can apply any TV payout that's due to you can be applied to that exit. So we already know there's 100 counted for right there. So, but yes, sir, I just don't think that, and I understand, one of the things that I believe, why I still kind of lean that FSU is going to go to the Big Ten now is if the SEC is waiting on North Carolina, that is a much clearer path, I guess, for FSU to go to the Big Ten, because if you're going to waiting, that's not going to be decided for a while on the North Carolina, like you suggest, North Carolina or any of the other Carolina schools or Virginia schools or so on. Now, does the SEC panic, seeing that FSU and Clemson are really about to leave and try to bring them in? Is there bad blood with FSU and the SEC right now? FSU more towards the SEC? Oh, there absolutely is. People are going to be, we've had this conversation, we're going to be furious for decades. If the SEC came in and had a deal on the table today, like we could do this today, full payout, We'll help you with your exit and all the rest of that. We'd still be ticked off at them for years, but we take it like now. But I just don't think that's going to happen, and I just think we're going to end up in the Big Ten, but we'll see. But yes, sir, we're not waiting on North Carolina to decide. Respect them, in their positioning and their university and their reputation and all the prestige that comes with it. But FSU wasn't going to wait on Notre Dame. We weren't going to wait on anybody. I mean, we're soon to be an AAU school ourselves. And our president, he's a Harvard man. He is running full steam ahead to increase the footprint of the research. That they cleared those hurdles with the Florida legislature. So now there's nothing that stops us from growing the research side. In getting to that position where we can be an AAU school. And but you had a caller that I heard on, I guess it was Sunday. Your Georgia Bulldog caller. I love her to pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with.
Yes, she is.
I'm going to disagree with her on something though. That whole narrative that Bobby threw out there that he didn't want to go to the SEC because it was too tough, that's not true at all. Actually, FSU was never actually offered by the SEC. There was negotiations years ago. Now, for years and years, the SEC and FSU would talk, but they were blocked by Florida and Georgia. That's all throughout. I think it's in the 70s and 80s and going all the way up. Whenever they started actually playing, a lot of football or competitive, they started getting into the national picture. And then in the early 90s when they were, they were independent, wanting to move into a conference, were they talking to the SEC? Yes. But they were also talking to the ACC, and that ticked the SEC off. They thought it was like an exclusive negotiation. And then they flirted again a few years later, and I think the ACC was paying more money. But the SEC was not the dominant conference back then. They had one or two good teams most every year. FSU wanted to play Georgia in the 90s and early 2000s, and Georgia didn't want to play FSU. Jim Donnan didn't want to play FSU. Ray Goff didn't want to play FSU. And whenever people would talk about, Bobby, Bobby said he didn't want to go to the SEC because it was too tough for conference or whatever. No, that was just a political answer. Because how do you tell the public that, the SEC officials got mad that we were talking to the SEC and stormed out of the meeting? How do you say those kinds of things? And it's just that the Feinbaums of the world are throwing that out there, that it's just, FSU was, didn't want to play SEC teams. FSU played Florida every year. FSU played Miami every year. FSU usually played an SEC team at the beginning of the season and played an SEC team in the bowl game. FSU has a winning record against the SEC. And so I just thought I would set the little historical record a little straight, I know that's not what gets thrown out there in the public, but Bobby was a gentleman and Bobby wasn't one. Steve Spurrier used to make all kinds of accusations against Bobby, and Bobby would just kind of look at him side-eyed and smile and say, and just throw some gentlemanly comment, a competitive way to phrase it, but he would just kind of let it slide off. And but yes, sir, I kind of wanted to throw that out there because I love her calls now. I love her enthusiasm for sure. But there's just that narrative floating around in SEC country, and I'm like, it's actually not true. They actually flirted again a little bit in 2012, but ESPN put the brakes on letting FSU and Clemson go to the SEC because Notre Dame came on board. And anyway, so we'll see how it all works out. But yes, sir. I just kind of wanted to throw all that out there.
Got it. Appreciate it, man. Great.
Hey, when do you think you'll have a Clemson update?
A Clemson update. A Clemson update that we can talk about. Boy, I don't know. The last time, right, we talked about Clemson, we put out some information. Not only should people look at the first quarter 2024 for them to say something, declare something, but we actually put out the date range of January 20th to February 6th.
I heard that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so and there's things about that we cannot talk about, and there's things that we can, but they wouldn't make any sense. So, great question. I don't know the answer. Let's see if I can push the envelope and have a more of a Clemson update later this week. We'll see what I can do.
Okay, well, that'd be good, because I'm hearing, and this is nothing coming from the FSU side. It's actually coming from all these people on social media from the Big Ten side are saying that FSU's closer. And I'm just talking about all these YouTube accounts and so on. That FSU's getting really close, and Ohio State's on board, and other teams are on board, and but it's just real quiet over FSU. I've reached out to some other people that have told me some things that I can't repeat, and even they say they haven't heard anything new, not in the last few weeks. So I'm just everything that I'm hearing is outside of FSU circles, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you look at the calendar, it's really not we're not in the space of where, I better not say that either. We're not in a hot zone spot in the calendar. So we'll see soon after first week of January. I think things are going to start picking up. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Well, listen, I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
You got it. Appreciate it, JD. Thanks. Great call, Mr. Seminole. Yeah, I'm putting up the ACC bylaw here. 1.4.5 withdrawal of members. To withdraw from a conference, a member must file an official notice of withdrawal with each of the members and commissioner on or before August 15th for the withdrawal to be effective June 30th of the following year. I think we all understand that. Upon official notice of withdrawal, the member will be subject to withdrawal payment as liquidated damages in the amount equal to 3 times the total operating budget of the conference, including any contingency included therein. Approved in accordance with Section 2.5.1 of the bylaws of the conference, which is in effect as of the date of the official notice of withdrawal. The conference may offset the amount of such payment against distribution otherwise due such member for any conference year. So, let's say Florida State withdraws from the conference, and if they're owed $30 million, Florida, that could be just not given to Florida State, and that subtracts from the total amount of whatever Florida State owes. Any remaining amount due shall be paid by the withdrawing member within 30 days after the effective date of withdrawal. The withdrawing member shall have no claim on the assets, accounts, or income of the conference. So, this is And I gotta preface this by saying, you know, I've spent too much time talking about this on the phone with people. This is why when we say the first quarter 2024, somebody's going to plant their flag in the ground. We believe there's going to be a declaration of this is our intention. We want to start the ACC and us, start settlement talks, whatever. We do not, I do not go all the way and say that a school is going to give their notice of withdrawal in the first quarter 2024. We have not said that. I have been careful in not saying that. There's going to be some declaration saying this is our intent. We are intending to give a notice of withdrawal. We have said that over and over and over again. I want to make sure. I think what happens in the first quarter of 2024, and we could be wrong, but I'm just telling you, what we are perceived, what's going to happen is some sort of indication, declaration that, you know what, Florida State, we're going to go down this path of withdrawal, but they're not going to, it's not like they're giving out 15 letters to the ACC presidents, or 14, not including them. One does have to go to Notre Dame, and to the commissioner of the ACC saying we are withdrawing here January 16th or February 13th or March 6th. We don't think that's going to happen in the first quarter of 2024. You know, if it did, according to the ACC bylaws, the withdrawing member, any remaining amount due shall be paid by the withdrawing member within 30 days of the effective date of withdrawal. So if Florida State does say we're leaving the conference in January, whatever that number is, and we believe it to be around $120 million, it's really difficult to know the operating total budget of the conference, whatever that is, whatever that money is, plus whatever the grant of rights. Some people think there should be no extra payment. We disagree with that. But whatever this money is, Florida would have to pay for it within 30 days, effective date of withdrawal. And because I don't think Florida State knows what that number would be, I think they want to negotiate. I think they want to have a settlement. I don't think the withdrawal notice is going to happen in January, February, or March. Maybe it will, but we don't think so. We still think something big is going to happen. But something big is going to happen, which will lead to the eventuality of the official withdrawal notice. I hope that kind of explains why we are saying what we're saying. Again, I think it's, we're going to find out, aren't we? We're going to find out. Don't think it's as easy as, here is the exit fee based upon 3 years of operational budget, and now we're out. Don't think it's going to be that easy. Because, okay, here's the thing about the grant of rights. It doesn't keep you from leaving the conference. It keeps you from being absorbed by another conference.
Call from Stacy.
Stacy, can you hold on 1 second, please?
Sure can.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Appreciate you calling. Hold on 1 second. So the grant of rights doesn't keep a school in a conference, but it eliminates, it almost eliminates, not entirely, but eliminates a lot of the value you would bring to another conference. because you will not bring your media rights with you. So if Florida State says we're doing a notice of withdrawal, here's $120 million check ACC, here's $100 million check ACC, yeah, they can leave the conference. But they don't bring their media rights with them. They don't bring the value with them to, let's say, the SEC or the Big Ten. They're going to want those media rights back. They want to get a settlement on those media rights. The media rights, again, I know people disagree with me, and that's fine, but I'm just letting you know what we've been told 1,000 times. The media rights of these schools, the grant rights, is owned by the conference, not by the media partner. The media partner owns the distribution rights. And again, I'm okay with you disagreeing with us here at Peek Around the Corner. But for Florida State to be able to leave and be able to be absorbed and able to get revenue from that conference, what Florida State would like to do and what the Clemson would like to do, they would like to leave the ACC, have their media rights, those media rights be given to the conference that they go into, and then that media partner that's with the SEC of the Big Ten gives money to that conference per the value of the school that, if FSU went into the Big Ten, for example, and then FSU would get paid out by the conference per the bylaws. That's how Florida State could sustain themselves in a Clemson, but there has to be some sort of settlement on the grant of rights to get back their own TV rights, their own media rights. Stacy, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
You lost Dylan Raiola. It looks like you're going to lose him back to Nebraska. How you feeling about that?
I got to be honest with you. Like I told you in our last conversation, one, I'm old school, so I really don't follow recruiting a whole lot.
Sure.
But when I do, I'm not one who panics. And I always say, at least to myself, these kids can promise that they're going to go to this university or that university until they sign on National Signing Day on the dotted line. Nothing's a given.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing against Dylan Raiola, but me and a bunch of other dog fans who I go on Dog Nation Daily every day with Brandon Adams, we were pretty high on who we got. And the day he verbally committed, Ryan Puglisi out of Connecticut, he never wavered, even when Kirby Smart said, hey, we're going after, at least one more QB. And he said, not a problem. So we tried to go after that kid from Dublin. His last name was Mecklinger. He ended up committing to Tennessee. And so then Dylan and them somehow started hooking up, and I think it's because he has a connection to our old Georgia quarterback. He's actually Dylan's, I guess you want to call him his godfather.
Okay.
And so it's the Rams quarterback. Help me out, people.
I don't know. Goff?
Who?
I don't know. Who's the Rams quarterback?
Yeah.
Goff? Or the kid from Georgia who's
yeah, the guy from Georgia.
He's not with the Rams anymore though. Or is he?
I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah.
I got so much.
I know who you're talking about.
All right. Well, they played on the same team in NFL.
Stafford.
Matthew Stafford. Thank you very much. They played on the Detroit Lions together. Dylan's father, Dominic Raiola.
Yes.
Heck of a linesman, awesome dude. Also a legacy player at Nebraska. Well, Dylan's uncle still works as a line coach for Nebraska. So I think you said earlier, it was his dad. No, it's his uncle. His dad's never worked for Nebraska. They played for them, but he didn't coach. Dylan's dad did not coach for Nebraska. It's Dylan's uncle who's on the sidelines for Nebraska. But I'll say this. He's got a pretty touch on his ball, pretty deep, passes, does whatever you need him to. But Ryan Puglisi, when he was at the invitation only in California this past spring with Dylan, they all said, holy cow, who is this dude? He's a little bit bigger than Dylan, and he's got a bigger cannon for an arm, if you can believe that. Oh. And ever since he committed, he has never wavered. And as a matter of fact, he's already signed. He already pre-signed. So I'm all right if that's where he wants to go. The problem I'm having is he moved down to Georgia this spring to go to Buford, which is the top-rated school. And he said, yeah, I'm a dog, and he's trying to recruit all these potential other recruits to come to Georgia. And now it's, I guess, NIL money's being thrown at him big time. Because let's face facts, we all know Nebraska has some big-time contributors out there.
Yeah.
And look, if he had any inclination that he was eventually going to cave into pressure from his uncle, which is from, insiders talking that it is mainly his uncle, the one who is really pressuring him to go. His dad said, hey, I'm good with either school. He actually is the one who told Dylan, look, Georgia's going to develop you better than what you're going to get right now at Nebraska. We're just not at the level we used to be. And so that's why, he gave his verbal to Georgia. And now he's saying, oh, I'm going to go visit Nebraska right before signing day. That's the problem I have. Yeah, you need to let your yeses mean yes and your no's mean no. Why don't you just say, I want to start a bidding war and I want the team who's going to pay me the most? I mean, I heard some outrageous figures like 2-3 days ago saying that, Beck is just waiting to see if Georgia's going to get that money for him. He's asking $4 million. Now, that's ridiculous. I don't care who you are. You could be, Brett Favre reincarnated. You're not worth $4 million. Not out of high school, unproven. You're just not. I'm sorry. You're just not. And even Beck, if he really is asking that, Beck was great this year for us. But he, in that Alabama game, if you watched it, he missed some easy throws. He doesn't have the wheels. We won with Stetson Bennett, a walk-on.
Yeah.
And Beck out of Jacksonville, which is where I'm from, by the way, born and raised. He was a 4 or 5-star. But he couldn't beat out a walk-on and Stetson Bennett. And Stetson Bennett won his 2 back-to-back titles. So that should tell you stars by a kid's name means nothing. There have been many 5, 4 stars, 3 stars who never saw the field in any university. So it's who wants it more and who's willing to grind and do the work. If Dylan wants to go to his dad and his uncle's alma mater, more power to him. But I think it's pretty low down the way he's going about it. Now, we're not behind closed doors. For all we know, he told Kirby Smart this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart, he's in the know, and they said he was going after probably a quarterback in the portal since we haven't heard a definitive yes or no for Beck. And maybe that stuck Dylan the wrong way. I don't know, but hey, we're good. I'm not panicking. We got Gunnar Stockton. He's a 5-star, and we got Puglisi. He's a 4. Some have him a 5.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys will be okay. And they're saying in the chat here that Florida commit, 5-star Florida commit quarterback DJ Legway is predicted to flip to Georgia if Viola flips. So it's just how the game is. That's how the game is. That would be
so hilarious because poor Florida. Look, I have no loss for Florida.
Yeah.
But everybody said, including your on-3, 247, all that Lagway was solid with Florida. That just goes to show you, really?
Yeah.
It's who is going to be throwing that money at him.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the kid Lagway. I do know for a while Raiola was the number 1 rated quarterback. But Julian Sayin outdid him in the Invitational, in that Invitational 11 only. And he's going to Alabama with Nick Saban. And then it was Lagway who was second best. And then Raiola had dropped down to, I think it was 4th or 5th best quarterback coming out of the 2024 class. So I'm not worried about it. But have some decency to say, look, hey, Nebraska's offering me $5 million. Can you give me that? No? Okay. Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, I know, are at least 2 on the record coaches who have said, we are not getting in bidding war for kids who want to come in and demand X, Y, and Z money. Look at what happened to the guy who Florida wanted last year to come in. They said they were going to pay him, $13 million? And guess what? They didn't have $13 million to pay him, and he bolted. So, I mean, they paid that Nico kid going to Tennessee now. They said $8 million. That's insane. I just saw yesterday where they said that if Marvin Harrison Jr. comes back for Ohio State, they said they're giving him $20 million.
Even Marvin Harrison said that's not correct.
Exactly.
We can't trust these numbers being thrown around.
Exactly.
That's
really, my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. So people can get all amped up, whether you're a Georgia fan, Florida fan, Missouri fan, whoever. Calm down, take a breath. Kids are going to go where they're going to go because they're promised the moon. And 5 will get you 10. They'll be lucky, to see the field that day. So I'm just not worried about it.
Yeah.
I would be crazy to say, hey, I would refuse to take, Raiola. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if his heart really is undecided and he's got still family members, which we know he does in Nebraska, then go. But as a Big Ten guy, what's going to happen putting a freshman out there with 0 O-linemen?
Yeah.
You're gonna get that kid killed. And he's 1 injury away from NFL career, and all that is now gone.
Yeah.
So he was okay. He gave interviews saying, I know I'm probably going to have to sit a year to learn, and I'm all for that. That came straight out of Dylan's mouth. So what has changed? I don't know, but my gut is his uncle probably got to some of the boosters saying, look, we're screwed. We're going to a 12-team playoff. Again, we haven't been to a bowl in 7 years. We got to get on the ball here. You see my nephew's potential. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? You're not going to improve even if you have Dylan on your squad this coming year. You're just not, because who does he have around him? He doesn't have a performing cast around him to elevate Nebraska to a potential playoff.
Not yet. They need a big time running back.
Yes.
I still think their offensive line. Bernhardt's coming back. He's the right tackle for the 5th year. He still struggles. I know, but maybe in 2025 they can compete for the top few spots in the Big Ten. So,
yes, that's my point.
Yeah.
So what if he does go for the 24 class? Who's to say then he's going to stick it out for the 2025 and he's not jumping somewhere else? He's been to 3 high schools, 3 different high schools now. He then committed to Ohio State. And he stayed committed for almost a year. Every interview, he said, nope, I'm right where I need to be because Ryan Day can develop me. No problem. Then all of a sudden, the next thing you hear is, I made my commitment too soon. He jumped out of it. Then it was a few months later, he said, I know where my next home's going to be. It's going to be Georgia, but he was still going to Huskers events like, their basketball events, and he was doing X for the black shirts defense and all that. But he said, nope, I'm right where I need to be. He said, I'm okay with sitting a year and learning. He said, I'm where I need to be because Georgia's going to win and get me to my next level, which is the NFL.
Yep.
And now it's like, okay. So look, even if he goes or stays, that's on him, more power to him. But I feel confident in my coaches,
And
Kirby
you should.
Smart, and it's nothing to panic about. But I wanted to kind of get back into your last caller. I think it was the Immaculate. Was that him?
I think it was JD, Mr.
JD?
Seminole, Florida
Okay.
State Seminole.
Okay. Well, look, I told you before, FSU used to be my number 2 college football team up until they did Bobby Bowden dirty when they squeezed him out to put in Dumbo Fisher. And then after that, I couldn't pull for that school. I don't know if he's misremembering things or not, but it's in print in black and white, and he's on record, Bobby Bowden is. And Adam Spencer rewrote this article 3 years ago.
Okay.
And Bobby Bowden did a question and answer with, I believe he's a sports writer, Brandon Marcello. And they went into the whole how he got into coaching. He was at Sanford, blah, blah, blah. FSU used to be an all-girls school. They were an independent, on and on and on. And then finally he said, look, we mutually wanted to join the SEC. And he said, in particular, our president and, I guess the talking heads at the time, don't ask me their names because, again, I follow the football team. I'm not into politics. So, But basically, Bobby Bowden said, in the end, it was the president and the board that voted we will go to the ACC. And Bobby Bowden said, and I quote, that is better for us. He said it would have been way too hard to wade through that SEC schedule. There's too many good teams on there. Oh, boy. Oh, gosh. You could Google it. Look it up.
Yep, he said that, and I think JD said he said that, but I think JD was, and I don't want to put words in JD's mouth, but I believe he was trying to infer that Bowden said that in more of a political manner, not like, oh, we're scared.
Well, the bottom line, though, is, he never minced words, and he did say it was an easier path to a championship for FSU going through the ACC.
Yep, and it is, it was, and it is. But
and listen, I love Bobby Bowden. I still love him, and they did him dirty. Bobby Bowden put FSU on the map, and they did the man dirty. So, bumpkiss for the ones who did that to Bobby Bowden. I'm sure Miss A.N. and Terry and all them still, have bitter feelings towards the school. But even Steve Spurrier, you know how he likes to get his digs in and stuff, especially when it came to Bobby and Philip Former from Tennessee. His whole standard line is, you can't spell citrus without UT. And that was a direct dig at Tennessee because, hey, he wanted to play for Tennessee, and all they offered him was a basketball scholarship. They did not offer him a football scholarship. That's the only reason he went to play for the Gators. And he was born and raised in Miami. So what does that tell you? He loved Tennessee more. But they screwed him over. So from that moment on, he hated Tennessee. And, of course, we were his main rival. So, he would go after Dooley, but not as much as he went after Bobby Bowden and Philip Fulmer. I mean, it was like all out war. But even Steve Spurrier said, he said, Bobby's a good guy at the end of the day. He said, but he knew what was up. He said, he even said, we'll win, but we'll win in the ACC. not so much in the SEC.
Got it.
And Georgia was never afraid to play FSU. As a matter of fact, we played them over the years. I remember in particular one game, it was in the 80s, when we had the great, best kicker in all of college football still to this day, Kevin Butler.
Yes. Chicago Bears,
And
Kevin Butler. Yep.
They said in practice, my man, the late great Larry Munson, said, holy smokes, guy. He said, he's kicking 70-yarders out on this field. He's kicking them in outer space. I love and miss Larry Munson.
Yeah.
But we
Okay,
actually
Stacey,
lost
I got to
that
go
game.
here.
Okay, just to finish up,
Yep.
we were never afraid. We played them. We lost that game. We played a couple more times. And then when we got Mark Richt, we played him in the Sugar Bowl, and we beat FSU. So we were never afraid to play FSU. And last what I'll say is, on the Paul Feinbaum show, yes, the Florida AG just said she is requesting all communications from every single member on the board, text, voicemail, email, and also everyone who was involved in ESPN. She wants to see financials, what was promised to who and when. And then that lastly, she said yes. And I really don't have a dog in this hunt, but she's a Gator fan. So I thought I'd let you know that. I thought it was very interesting.
Yep.
She's given them till January the 10th at the latest for them to turn that over to her. So I don't know if that's going to make a difference in anything, but she's like, transparency is a must. And that's all we all want. We want
Yep.
transparency.
We want transparency. Yep.
Right. So anyway,
I
love your show, Greg.
Thank
Not
you.
starting a fight with anybody, but I did want to put a rebuttal out there
Got it.
so people could go and find the info on their own.
No problem, Stacy. Mrs. Georgia Bulldog, appreciate you coming on in. Please call again.
Take care, Greg, and
You
go
got it.
Dogs.
Thank you. Great call by Stacy Bulldog. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. Please, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you get yourself notified. We can come on live at any time, any breaking news, morning, afternoon, nighttime, late in the night. We drop in episodes left and right. So please, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. If you like our content today, please smash the like button. If you didn't like our content, please smash the thumbs down button and let me know in the comment section or with a tweet or a post at Flug Empire. Let me know how we better can serve you to give you the best college football content that there is. Also, if you're interested, this site is a poppin'. College football's early peak episode. It's a membership, one level membership, $5.99 a month. We give you the early information on what's about to happen. You're the first to hear it, and then we talk about it later in the day. Hit the join button. Now, unfortunately, we had to take an L. We had to take a loss at the start of the show. In the early peak episode, I believe we dropped it on Sunday. For those with early peak members who watched it, we said that Riley Leonard was going to make the announcement that he's going to be a Notre Dame fighting Irish. We said it was going to happen Monday. It happened today, Tuesday. So we had to take the loss on that. I apologize. We know, we were told it was all ready. The video that they put out on Tuesday, it was ready on Monday. They filmed it while he was in town, South Bend, visiting on Wednesday and Thursday. He used that as part of his announcement. We were told it was going to happen Monday. It was all set up for Monday. So we take the loss. I apologize to the early peak members because you were the ones that we gave the information that it was happening on Monday. It happened today on Tuesday. So we got that wrong. We apologize. Thank you for the wonderful comments, for the wonderful donations, and the epic phone calls today. PATC community is on fire. Buckle up, brace for impact. The first quarter 2024 is going to be epic. I don't think anything's getting decided anytime soon when it comes to the upcoming ACC implosions. There's just too many unanswered questions, and they're not all going to be answered too many questions. The big one, North Carolina, in the internal battle, the battle for the soul and the future of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and then you got the Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Florida State. All four schools have interest from the SEC and the Big Ten. That's what we're reporting to you here at Peek Around the Corner. That's what we believe, and that's what Clemson believes. That's what Florida State believes. And I don't think they are wrong. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.